I am here with Karen Newton, a longtime Earth and Spirit Center faculty member who teaches a two-course sequence, Basic Mindfulness for Stress Resilience, which we'd like to talk about in this video, and a Deepening Compassion follow-on course to that. So we want to dive into Basic Mindfulness for Stress Resilience. And Karen, as we get started here, if you can tell us a little bit about your own mindfulness journey and how you came to walk on this path and what that path has brought for you.
We only have 2 minutes, Kyle.
Well, we could push it to 3 or 4 or something like
So
that.
yeah, good morning, good day to everyone. In my 70th year now, I will say that my mindfulness journey is about 40 years long. Serious work with this, really committed work for about the last 15 years. And I have ventured into all kinds of traditions and settled on the Vipassana insight mindfulness tradition of meditation, going on probably 18 years now. And that was
so you're an adept.
I feel a certain amount of skill with it. And I feel like that there is so much support for this tradition in our Western culture. I'm not saying there aren't other traditions valid, but this one, because of our busy minds and our multitasking culture and overvaluing of thought in a certain cognitive realm, I think it really works for me. And that I think the students who come into my particular classes appreciate the fact that with huge relief that in this tradition, you don't ever expect your thoughts to stop.
Right. You do not have to get this perfect. That is the biggest bugaboo of new mindfulness practitioners.
Yes.
I'm glad you lay that ground rule down early.
Yeah. So the myth about, well, if you're doing it right, your thoughts stop. That's not the tradition. If you're doing it right, you can do it all by yourself in isolation. That one's also really not helpful. So people who come to these classes with me consistently say, because I want to be with other people. And that's part of my journey. I realized that doing it by myself, thinking that was the perfect way, was not serving me well. So joining communities like the Earth and Spirit Center, I worked for University of Louisville for 18 years. And was director of health promotion for student health services. So that was creating communities of well-being, communities that were, culturally normed, that it was okay to talk about meditation, that it was okay to talk about well-being factors. So that's been my passion my whole life. I have a master's in public health, registered dietitian, nutritionist, and I like to assist people with well-being without being a nag.
Well, I love the linkages you're making here between health, and I assume you mean both mental health and physical health, and these meditation practices. In fact, the title of your course implies that Basic Mindfulness for Stress Resilience. Resilience is, such a popular term in so many ways, whether in the business realm or in the realm of personal health. In what ways does Basic Mindfulness, does this course invite folks into a greater level of health and resilience?
Well, Kyle, that talking about and discussing resilience is one of my favorite topics. And this is where I can get to be a little bit of a nag, because it's sad to me that resilience is.
I've never known you to be a nag. You've mentioned nag now twice. You're not a nag.
Well, listen to this.
Okay.
I want you to
prove me wrong.
I want you to memorize this definition because people talk about resilience as this thing you can bounce back. Again, misunderstanding is if it's some innate dose of resilience you get, and if you're not resilient, you are somehow defective. So the resilience definition that I use in all of my classes is this. It's a lot of words. Resilience is the acquired capacity to be flexible in how we think, feel, and behave when facing life's challenges in order to bounce back and move forward, more capable, confident, and connected. That's resilience. That's how we can frame mindfulness, because
Oh,
the point is not to be a good meditator, right? The point is to live a well-connected, purposeful life. And
I
if we're so stress reactive that we're hanging out in reactivity all day long, then we're not purposeful, and we're certainly not well. So that's how these things come together. Mindfulness practices, and I teach many, many forms, Kyle, as you know, it's not just breath focused meditation. In basic
There's the
mindfulness,
raisin eating. I love the raisin eating.
we use any food you want to bring, but
Right.
the 10 different forms are included in the first 4-week basic mindfulness for stress resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Because it turns out using these contemplative practices is one of the most efficient ways of developing resilience, because
And
it's a mind body, it's an embodiment process. So we practice all these different forms, and we end up with the capacity to be still, the capacity to focus, the capacity to discern from a point of wisdom. That's the prefrontal. We learn to tone down the screaming, tantrum throwing amygdala. That's kind of like the basic neurobiology frame for mindfulness for stress resilience.
Well, I love your rich and broad, nuanced understanding of resilience. I once upon a time thought about resilience as one of those, those inflatable punching dolls that are weighted at the bottom when you just punch it and it comes right back to its original location. But I think what I hear you saying, and I have heard you say over the years, is that resilience is this. I love the idea of flexibility, and not just to bounce back to where you were, but to bounce back into a newer, broader, deeper, better way of being in community. So there's so much there to unpack. I wish we had more than the few minutes we have here, but I am encouraged to hear how many tools you're able to offer in that course. And Karen, the next time we'll be offering basic mindfulness is upcoming in March.
March 25.
Yep, March 25th, Thursdays, either at noon to 1:30 or 7 to 8:30 Eastern time. So everyone's welcome to look more into these courses of Karen's and other courses on our website, earthandspiritcenter.org. Click on the programs tab, and then there's a mindfulness courses tab under that, or the how to meditate tab, I believe. So Karen, thank you so much for your good work in helping people become more mindful and more resilient together.
Thanks, Kyle.